This is Lady Boulay, and welcome back to Black American Lineage. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your thumbs up. And thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. Well, I am watching the Democratic National Convention, and with Joe Biden being off the scene and Kamala Harris being on the scene, it has brought a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of excitement. I watched Michelle Obama's speech last night, and it sort of was like a different tone than what we've been hearing from her. She's been talking about going high when they go low. But last night, she sort of let it hang out. Like, she let it be known that she didn't think very highly of Donald Trump. And she shouldn't, because they have lied on her. They have tried to humiliate her. They have just done everything that they could to break that couple, even down to trying to turn him into a woman and trying to turn her into a man. That has got to be hurtful. So I was glad to see that she wasn't up there talking about when they go low, we go high. I wanted to hear when they go low, we go low too. So this article states that she said something that Democrats have been afraid to say. So let's see what the article says. Michelle Obama articulated something Democrats have been afraid to say. Something wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? Former First Lady Michelle Obama said in her speech at the Democratic National Convention Tuesday, "A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for too long. You know what I'm talking about? It's the contagious power of hope," she said, adding, "America, hope is making a comeback." When President Obama was running for president, he was always talking about hope and change, hope and change. So that's what she means when she says hope is making a comeback. Michelle Obama was quite clearly implying that the party and perhaps the country had lost hope under Joe Biden, and that it took Harris to bring that hope back. Now, y'all remember that Michelle Obama would not campaign for Joe Biden. The word was that she did not like Jill Biden. I don't know how true that is, but Michelle became friends with Hunter Biden's ex-wife, and she told Michelle some horrible things about Joe and Jill Biden. And Michelle fell out with Jill. They may have had some differences. Anyway, Michelle would not campaign for Joe Biden, and that had to be a little bit more personal than just the daughter-in-law. So it would be interesting to know what happened. But anyway, few Democrats have gone so far as to openly admit how bad the vibes had gotten. Even before Biden's disastrous debate with Donald Trump in June, his polling had been quite poor for nearly a year. More and more people in the party began to view defeat as highly likely, if not inevitable. Since then, hope has indeed returned, but in this new era of good feelings, few Democrats have publicly dwelled on how bleak things had gotten. The speech crystallized something fascinating about how the presidential contest has changed in the past month. Namely, that Harris seems to have become the change candidate who can channel hopes for the future, even though her administration currently runs Washington and she is the incumbent vice president. And the reason Kamala might seem to be distant from the administration is because, they say, he wouldn't let her have any input in anything. Joe Biden wouldn't let her have any input in anything. And so she just stayed in the shadows and let him run the show until her time came. In part, Kamala might seem more like the change candidate because she's younger, not being an octogenarian or a septuagenarian like him and Donald Trump, and because her election would be a demographic first. But it's also because her opponent, Donald Trump, has already served as president and has incessantly dominated the nation's politics and much of its mental mind share for the past decade. You can say that again, just to the point of just driving everybody insane with this nonsense. Not only is Trump obsessed with relitigating controversies and grudges from his first term, but he also has too much of a political history at this point to credibly promise he could lead the country in a truly new direction. No, he can only lead the country backwards. When the public is dissatisfied, a newer, lesser-known change candidate can have a real advantage. Without having been in power, such a candidate can be all things to all people. They can represent the public's hope, having not yet disappointed them. Barack Obama thought this was crucial in his rise to political prominence. "I serve a blank screen," he wrote in his 2006 book, The Audacity of Hope, on which people of vastly different political stripes project their own views. Harris has benefited from a similar dynamic. She has given Democrats and voters generally who were disappointed or disillusioned under Biden a reason to hope she will be different in a way that they like. That was on display Tuesday when both Senator Bernie Sanders and former American Express CEO Ken Chenault spoke effusively about Harris not being too far removed from each other. It's also been evident in how protests of Biden's Israel policies have been far less of a factor at the convention than many expected, and is front and center in the campaign's rhetoric that Harris wants to go forward, not back. The risk of being the change candidate is that you are less experienced, but being the incumbent VP helps Harris with that. Currently, she appears to be getting the benefits of experience from having served under Biden without the downsides of being held accountable for his record. The Trump team now very much wants to recouple Harris and Biden, blaming her for the inflation, foreign crises, and border chaos that have occurred in the past 4 years. In the face of these attacks, Harris's task is to ensure voters keep viewing her as the new and hopeful future rather than the past. Well, she seems to be doing a pretty good job of that so far. But I think the point of the article was to point out that Michelle Obama was the one that came on the stage to say that the country has lost hope, and not only hope, but confidence in Joe Biden. And now Kamala Harris has brought hope and optimism back to the Democratic Party. And I really enjoyed Michelle Obama's speech because she spoke her mind. And she spoke up and said some things that we have been wanting her to say for quite some time. So good for Michelle. Okay, y'all, thank you for listening. Have a good evening.